absolutely stunning place in the world. Beautiful mornings on the beach, after school, and many, many holidays. This is where I ended up. It was the absolutely right move for me, but very, very different, as you can imagine. Guildford. Bit rainy, not quite the same scenery, lots of traffic. The physical change was really easy, but the mental change and the emotional change wasn't. I didn't make that mindset change for many years. I didn't release my potential. It was only that change that I really released myself, realized my potential, transform and grow. So you're all thinking, what does this have to do with shared services? Well, I believe shared services are going through a seismic change, a complete organizational reshape. I'm not talking incremental change or the new normal. I'm talking from functional silos to being completely functionally agnostic. I'm talking from delivering transactional services to GBS on demand, services that really benefit the business in ways second to none. I'm talking moving from back office to the central office, the heartbeat of the organization. And why now? I believe that GBS heroes, or GBS leaders, are the unsung heroes of the pandemic. You really kept the business going through very, very turmoil time. And the business are now looking to you to do more. You've got the credibility now, you've got the seat at the table, so it's your time to shine and stand up and do more for the business that really needs you. Right, that was the opening to the movie. More of that later. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Deloitte's Shared Services Conference 2021. I am Candice Sieg, and I'll be your conference chair. As you can see, this conference is like none other we've ever done before. So first of all, I want to welcome our physical delegates here in the room in this amazing location, Farnborough, the home of British aviation. Welcome, everyone. And then we have roughly 1,500 people joining us online as well, and we'll be seeing them through various parts of the day as well. And I want to introduce something new today. We have a studio, and my co-host in the studio, Chris Samsa. Chris, welcome. It's fantastic to have you here.
Great. Thank you so much, Candice. So from the sunshine of the Cape to the maybe not so sunny Guildford, that's quite a journey.
It certainly is, Chris. And you know, they say there's no place like home, but I've certainly now made Guildford my home.
Great. I'll be back speaking to you a little bit later on. Thank you so much. So my name is Chris Samsa, and let me start by saying welcome to all of you here in person today, and to those of you joining us from your homes and your offices and maybe your garden sheds as well. A little bit about myself. I'm a positive psychologist specializing in applied neuroscience. The perfect qualifications for being a conference co-host? Well, maybe. If anyone needs an emergency psychologist today, I'm going to be here. Actually, I think it's my presenting experience that got me the job, so being in front of the camera is quite familiar territory. Now, I'm speaking to you live from our broadcasting studio, which for those of you here with us at Farnborough is on the right side of the main stage when you came into the exhibition venue. The studio is a brand new feature of this year's conference. It's all about added value here in the studio, as we want to bring those of you joining us virtually to the conference as opposed to bringing the conference to you. We're going to be broadcasting our very own agenda to both the screens here at the venue and on the virtual platform when there's any downtime on the main stage. I'll be talking to speakers, experts, sponsors, and I very much hope some of you too hear from wherever you happen to be in the world. The studio provides those watching in far-flung places the chance to participate. And this large monitor on my right-hand side is how you'll do that. We're going to be bringing your questions directly into the studio. Now, as you can imagine, I'm not here on my own pulling all of the strings. There's a whole production team. And yesterday, I was lucky enough to go backstage and do a little bit of filming. So let's take a few minutes now to have a look at what has been going on behind these curtains. So you're only seeing a very small part of actually this huge space that we're in. Believe it or not, this is an aircraft hangar. So when they took the aeroplanes out and moved us in, we were able to take over only about a third of the space that we're actually using today. What you can see behind me would actually take at least one, if not two, huge aircraft. So we wanted to give you a little bit of an insight into what's going on backstage. And the first time I came through, I couldn't believe the number of people who are here. We have people looking after sound, there are the visuals. You'll see me reading a bit later on. There are two people who are just looking after the auto cue as well. So everything you see in front of these curtains here is managed by this whole army of people backstage. And I'm so delighted that they're here because they're the people that make us, who are appearing on camera, who are working with you today, look so slick and so professional. So as you can see, our behind the scenes setup matches exactly what's happening right in front of the curtain. The virtual platform has been carefully designed and curated for straightforward navigation. The interactive interface on your screen can be used to leave feedback, respond to polls, take notes, and most importantly, ask questions. So please join us in the conversation online, tagging any of your LinkedIn posts with the hashtag Deloitte SSC 2021. And on that note, allow me to introduce our first studio expert, Dorte Keilberg. Hi, Dorte. Great to have you here.
Morning, Chris. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So what have we got in store today?
Lots of really, really cool stuff and great speakers. I'm so happy about that.
Great. Thank you very much. We're going to be interacting a lot as we go through the day. So I've been told that you're going to be helping me make sense of everything that's happening, so I'm going to be relying on you quite a lot. How long have you been in the shared services industry?
So I am actually in my 18th year.
Wow.
Working with our very cool clients on designing and setting up shared services.
Fantastic. Well, I couldn't have anyone better beside me kicking off the opening of the studio here today. So later in the day, I'll also be joined by Punit Bhatia and Antonio Russo, who also have countless years of specialist knowledge and experience in shared services. Finally, if you're watching remotely, please don't forget to take a break, have a coffee, stretch your legs. If you've got a dog, take them out for a walk and get some fresh air. It's important to really take care of yourself. And now I'm going to be handing back to the main studio, back to Candice, back to the main stage for our opening plenary of the day. Candice, over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Chris, and welcome, Dorte. Right, so I'm going to take us back to some of the themes I was exploring earlier. Firstly, I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. What do you think this number represents? This is 12 agonizing hours I spent trying to resolve 3 very basic queries not so long ago. In fact, I think those 12 hours were spent in about 2 days. On chatbots, on calls, on emails, trying to resolve a simple credit card transaction, a tax code, sorry, it's not getting away, that was public sector, and of course, a phone query. So, what came to at the end of those 12 agonizing hours? Well, I didn't get the response I needed. I was a very angry, frustrated, and upset customer. And I knew probably on the end of that was shared services. I also remember being 94th in the queue of chatbots. Now, that is not what we intended when we invented or brought in these digital technologies to help support customers. It was meant to make our life much easier, right? So not only was I impacted as the client, as the customer, the paying customer, but of course the poor people receiving my frustration and aggression on the other side. Why is this? Well, I'll tell you why. I am functionally agnostic. I don't care about finance or IT or HR. I just need my problem resolved, and I need it done in a timely fashion. And so imagine if shared services was designed around me, the customer, designed around my requirements. my life would be so much easier, your lives would be so much easier, and the people receiving the queries would be so much easier. This is one thing the central office can give you. Now, let's go back to Africa. This is a tomato from Zambia. I was going to say this is a tomato from Guildford that I grew, but I forgot it. So imagine it's much smaller, okay? And I did grow it. Well, actually, I didn't, but I grew it, and it was much smaller. If you were going to invest in tomatoes, which tomato would you invest in? You know, it's a trick question. Naturally, you'd invest in the Zambian tomato, which is exactly what Sorelli did in the early 70s. He was an Italian who worked for a charity, and he decided to go over to Zambia to help them grow food. And he discovered those massive tomatoes. So he planted loads and loads of tomatoes, and they all came up, and as he was about to harvest them, boom, the hippo struck. And anybody knows a hippo, you can't stop a hippo. It was a big hippo tomato gorge fest. They ate all the tomatoes. Again, you're thinking, what on earth does this have to do with shared services? Well, Sorelli didn't have the big picture. He didn't have all the facts. He didn't have all the data. He only had part of the data. So therefore, he made a decision based on misinformation, and it didn't pan out for him. If you think about it, as leaders, you make big strategic decisions every single day. But do you have the full facts? Do you have quality data at your fingertips in order to make those decisions? That is another thing the central office can give you. So let's explore this central office. When we talk about the central office, there are three key things we are looking at. First of all, end-to-end services. Now, we've spoken about this a lot, but we always look at the services of trying to optimize processes within our shared services. Imagine looking at those services from the outside in, looking at what your customers want, what are they experiencing? How many of you have tried to use your own shared services? So imagine designing around those and going truly end-to-end across transversal processes. Secondly, capabilities as a service, or as I call it, GBS on demand, or Uber GBS. By default, shared services have got so many capabilities, technologies at their disposal. So you imagine if you took that, transition services, change management, project management, data analytics, and provided that back to the business as an on-demand service, releasing them from doing the work that they shouldn't be doing. Really going the extra value add. And finally, focusing on customer experience. Making that at the heart of what you do, not just around the interaction, but also looking at the outcomes that your customers want to drive. They don't care that you paid 95% of invoices on time. They care about the 5% you didn't pay, because that's where the noise is. They care about how you're going to resolve that. They care about how you look after their vendors, their customers, their clients, etc. So that is the concept of the central office. And for many of you, you're probably thinking, functionally agnostic, that'll never happen. It's too big a change. Well, according to our survey, 10 years ago, most of you didn't have true GBS functions. In fact, I would go as far as to say most of you probably didn't have a GBS leader. Maybe shared services, yes. Shared service directors, absolutely. But did you have a true GBS organization? Today, our survey says that 80% do. Massive change. So if we can do that, well, we can do this. And let's face it, the pandemic has taught us we can do pretty much anything. So those are my scenarios, and I want to bring this to life. Starting off with a brand that no doubt we all grew up with, our kids grew up with, our parents grew up with. It's a lot of fun, very colorful. And the building blocks of the central office, I'd like to please welcome Morten Leland to the stage from the Liga Group.